This is the Page Publishing Book Club. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. Stories of opioid addiction, from recovering addicts to parents, are becoming all too common. It is a drug that does not discriminate, a drug that can overpower a human being faster than any other drug known to man. And while Purdue Pharma pays out billions to hundreds of thousands of victims for its role in the opioid epidemic, the fallout continues. It was at a breakfast with friends that Jay Marie realized 3 out of the 4 of them were struggling with kids doing drugs, and how powerless they were. Soon after, she started her book, Loving Dylan.
Just how each of us had tried something different and nothing worked. But the one thing that we all had in common was that we were exhausted. We're from different backgrounds. We're all sober. And so it was just, we knew that it wasn't that they had seen us using. It was, we didn't know what was going on. And so I just started writing it out for my own self, just figuring out what happened. And then it kind of morphed into a book.
Just trying to understand why.
Mm-hmm. Like, where did I go wrong?
Oh, no.
No, I mean, that's an intelligent question. Like, if I could take control of it, then I could fix it.
Well, could you take control of that?
Well, see, that's the point of the book. You can't. It's not my I didn't do it. You can't make somebody do heroin. You can't make somebody do heroin, so you can't make someone stop doing heroin. The conclusion is the only thing I could do is take care of myself and take care of my other kids.
How old was Dylan?
Dylan was 13 when he started using, and he's still using today. He's 25. So it's been 12 years.
How did he start using at 13?
I know, it's really odd because I was really a lot like a helicopter mom. I mean, we drove them, picked them up from school. They didn't have spare time to get involved with drugs, but he was using at school. To be frank with you, people say, oh gosh, he got involved with the wrong crowd. But in truth, it was my son that was the wrong crowd. Again, I can't blame anybody, or it is what it is.
So thank God he's still alive.
Yes, which is surprising because he is the last one. The other are dead or in prison. So we've been to 2 funerals of overdoses. And then the other 2 didn't have funerals. I mean, it's kind of sad. The destruction is actually more about the person's life, is that they like it. When I asked him just point blank, why did you start? I mean, everybody knows heroin's super addictive. And he said that it was the worst mistake he's ever made, and that he didn't think he would get caught in the addiction. He thought he was stronger than the addiction, and that he thought he would have a good weekend and that it would be done. And so it's the actual addiction that ruins the person. He says the lucky ones die.
Oh.
I know.
We've been to funerals, we've had friends' kids. I mean, spending a fortune sending them to rehab.
And it not being included on insurance and not being successful.
Insurance doesn't pay for rehab?
No, it doesn't. And so it comes out of pocket. So a lot of my friends have had to move. I lost my house. I couldn't afford rehab for my son and my house. This is another part of the book that I think this was an important lesson for me. I had to redefine success. He did not get sober, but there were seeds that were planted while he was there. And more importantly, the rest of the family had space to heal and recover and gather back in to make the rest of the family stronger.
How many brothers and sisters?
So he has a younger brother and a younger sister. So he was the oldest.
And where is he now?
He's homeless in Portland.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you. It was
So you basically cut ties with him.
I did. I was still talking to him just about every day the whole time he was homeless. And then if he was going to participate in a solution like, oh, he went to the clinic, I would give him money for gas to get back and forth to the clinic. But he was just kept lying to me. And so I came to the understanding that I'm not actually helping him. I'm actually being selfish because I make something happen that I can't make happen. So I cut ties with him. And I have to tell you, it's been the hardest thing I've ever done. Um, it's funny, I have like rashes on my body, and it's been really, really hard, like unbearably hard, like physical reactions from doing this. But I can't fix it, and I can't keep giving him the illusion that I can fix it.
Marie, all I can say is my heart goes out to you. Thank you so much for sharing your story. It wasn't much of a childhood for Patricia Revere, growing up in Georgia as a member of a dysfunctional family and trying to keep her wits about her. But writing her book, Patricia, has helped her come a long way.
My father, he was an alcoholic. My mother, she's paranoid schizophrenic. I was abused sexually by an uncle and cousin. And so just what it was like growing up, what it was like as an adult having to deal with those issues because you have to deal with it. And it is not an easy thing. So that's the book kind of goes through what I did to try to get through it.
How do you get through it? I mean, did you get professional help?
I did get some help as an adult, not as a child. I remember telling myself if I could only grow up, then it would be better. And once I did grow up, though, the feelings, the hurt, all that was still there. And so I saw a therapist, and I thought it would, one time, and okay, I'm good. But it's a long process, and you do the work, and you think, okay, now I'm okay. But then, it's so many layers,
Yeah.
and something else will come up, and you really do have to deal with it because you can't drown it out. You can't ignore it. It just holds you back if you do from, the happiness that you want.
Were you able to have a happy life?
I'm still working. I'm still working even now. I'm 55 now, and I'm still trying to get there. um,
How do you have a quote unquote normal relationship with someone? How do you have your own children when you've got so many scars from your own life?
that's one of the reasons why I decided not to have children. I said I don't want to inadvertently or unconsciously make life miserable for my child, and for my child to have to go through any of the things that I've had to go through. Mental illness is very, very strong in my family. Grandfather, mother. And I said, I don't want my child to have to go through any other things that in any other hurt. And I know it's in my family, from that aspect. Addiction, addiction is in my family. And so what I said was, maybe if I felt like I wanted children after I had gotten better, there's so many children that need homes, that need, to be adopted. And so I said, at an early age, if I ever had children, it would probably be that way.
Yeah, you'd adopt. You'd adopt.
Yeah. Um, to share, it was really painful at first when I first wrote. I wrote it as short stories, some of it, and just so very, very painful. And so when people said, write a book, I'm like, are you kidding? I'm never, just the short stories alone were so very hard. But then it was like God said, okay, just write it now. And when that happened, I had a doctor's appointment that same day, and my doctor is one of them. She was like, maybe you should write, And I said, it's funny you say that because I already got my notebooks, my pen, because God had already said. And so that was like confirmation. And it wasn't nearly as hard. It was still difficult, but not nearly as hard after that.
It's great to hear that writing has become a part of your recovery. I wish you all the best. Michael Eberly was just 22 years old when he was sent to Iraq and a year later came home a disabled vet. But slowly, life has gotten better, and now he's the father of a girl and a boy ages 2 and 4, and he's published his first book, My Daddy, My Hero.
Well, I've been doing it my whole life, really, but I never really thought about doing a book up until a few years ago after my kids came around. I wanted to do something that, they could remember me by. And I thought, what a better way. So, and I had a little message to send, so I figured, this would be a good idea to possibly, get it out and give my kids something to cherish when I'm gone. It is about a father that is overseas. He's in Iraq. Just like I didn't have kids when I was there, but I got to witness a lot of the interactions when we got home, with the kids and stuff. And it was really a special moment. So I went, a father that's in Iraq, he has 2 children at home, and it's the son has to go to school and do what my daddy does for work day. Except his dad can't be there, obviously. So he brings his mom in, and they were going to talk about what daddy does for work. And daddy ends up coming home and surprising the family at his school. It's a little spin on the positives of, service instead of all the negative you always hear. And, my father was also in the service. He was never in a war zone or anything, but he was in the service. So I always looked up to my dad for that. He continues to be my hero to this day. So, that's how much I looked up to my dad. So I just hope that my son will look up to me the same way, when he's older and understands a little bit more, what I did and what all the men and women do. It's based on, daddy being overseas and being in the Army. But, to me, my father personally, like I said, growing up, he was the best father I could have, always working hard, always doing what he could to provide for his family. And so, not just being in the war, but, a lot of little boys, even their daughters, they look up to daddy, they look up to mommy too, but I'm a father, so I just put the father spin on it. I've donated a couple books to some daycares around here. I'm giving one to my local vet center. A couple families around here I've given some books to. I was on the news out here, our local news station, promoting it. So I try to go around to libraries, local schools. I've donated one to my local school, the high school I went to, and their library also. So I've done as much as I can, to try to kind of get it out there. I want as many people to read it as possible. And I would love to do readings too. I've thought about that. The pandemic kind of slowed things down, but now that it's getting a little bit better, hopefully I can get out there and do some readings. I posted some things online about it, about readings and stuff, but hopefully it does translate into sales. I mean, that's not the biggest thing. Money's not the biggest thing. It's just getting the word out there.
All right. Well, this is a start, Michael. Thank you. An illustrator and independent contractor in Northwest Ohio, Victoria Preston adds published author to her list of accomplishments with a young adult fantasy sci-fi adventure entitled Achilles Maestri and the Veiled Prince.
Well, my mom would tell you that I've always been a storyteller. I've been writing books ever since I was old enough to hold a pencil, honestly. This is my first book that I was able to put together. It did take me 7 years. I put everything into this book. It is my baby. but it turned out so much better than I could ever imagine. And the fact that I can share this with people is incredible. Achilles Maestri is the main character, and he's pretty funny. He starts off, he's a farmhand. He hunts in his spare time. He's kind of a homebody. He doesn't really do anything, get out and go anywhere. So when a dwarven knight shows up on a horse in full getup, he's shocked. And he finds out that this night he's going on an adventure, and he can't help himself. He ends up going off to meet the Witch of the Northern Wood, and he thinks this whole time that he's just going to go there and leave. And he finds out a lot is going on, and he's going to have to do something about it. So he decides to go along with the Dwarven Knight to go see the witch to get a potion, a cure for his grandmother. And when he gets there, he realizes that although he can get the cure and he can go back home, he's met with a decision that he has to make to either go back home or to leave. And it's a very difficult decision, especially as a homebody. The groundhogs in his garden are no longer his biggest issue. You hear about the female right in the beginning in the first chapter, but you don't know who she is. And at first, Achilles doesn't even really know that she's real. He thinks that he has imagined this beautiful woman that comes to see him at night when he's done with all of his duties at the end of the day. In the middle of the night, every night, she comes to him in his sleep and says sweet things, and they get to spend time together, and then she's gone in the morning. So he always thought that it was this kind of respite that he had at the end of the night, that he got to see this beautiful woman, and it was just the perfect end to a day. And then every morning she's gone. But when he returns to Burgdul, when he goes with the Dwarven Knight to go to Burgdul, he ends up meeting this gorgeous woman and cannot believe who she actually is. The Veiled Prince is the antagonist in this story. And he learns about the Veiled Prince when he goes to meet the witch, which kind of is that turning point when he has to make a decision. Do I go home, or do I end up doing something about the Veiled Prince? Achilles doesn't really believe that he can do much of anything. He's been raised on a farm. He is by himself. He doesn't have any siblings or anything. And along the way, starting with the Dwarven Knight, he meets all of these incredible people that instantly become family to him. So he broadens his entire life. Every perspective that he had thought, I'm alone, there's no one there. He finds so many people that would never leave his side, that do things for him and take him on all of these adventures. Sometimes things don't go as you think they will, and sometimes that's part of the adventure itself. I've been marketing on social media. I did do an interview at the local Burchard Public Library that we have around the area. All the mask mandates and everything are finally coming down. We're able to start meeting, and I can actually start doing book meets and, come and meet the author and start traveling a little bit.
So how many books you got planned here?
I was hoping to do this a series of 3, a trilogy. But as I've been writing, it's looking like it's going to be 4 in all. And I know the public libraries in our area are fantastic. They're always doing events and different things. They do events for local authors. I mean, they're fantastic at actually getting young people into libraries again.
All right, so you're going to get on that train, right?
Yeah, I love libraries. People need to get out and actually pick up a good book again.
It's so nice to hear you say that, Victoria. Couldn't agree with you more. All right, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, some relationship advice. This is the Page Publishing Book Club.
Attention all authors. Page Publishing is looking for authors. Have you written a book and want to get it published? Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, Apple iTunes, and other outlets. They handle all aspects of the publishing process for you: printing, cover art, publicity, copyright, and editing. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. That's 800-204-6099 for your free author submission kit.
We're back on the Page Publishing Book Club. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. A one-time relationship counselor in the Air Force, James Knuckles has had a lot of experience with relationships personally and professionally. And he's been taking notes along the way, notes that led him to write a relationship pocket guide written for women by men. Now, did you find women generally had a couple of things in common?
I think that women have this perception of men that we don't communicate well. We're not always truthful. We don't listen. And so I think there is some truth to those things, but there's a reason for it. And I try to explain that in the book.
What's the reason?
Well, I think a big part of it is conditioning. From a very young age, we've been conditioned. And I think a lot of times, too, women already know the answers to some of these questions they ask us men. Let's just say, we're with a spouse, a girlfriend, and we both happen to see this very sexy, attractive young lady. And so she turns to us and she says, well, what do you think? Do you think she's attractive? Do you think she's sexy? The honest answer is, yeah, I think so. But is that the answer the average man's going to give to his wife or his girlfriend? No, he's probably going to lie about it. Or if, my girlfriend or my wife may have put on a little bit of weight and she asked me, baby, do you think I'm fat? The honest answer is technically she's fat. She's overweight. But am I going to tell her that? Probably not. So that's what I mean when I say that we've been conditioned a lot of times.
So, okay, this is how my husband would handle. He would say to me, do you feel like you're overweight? And I'll say, yes. Yes. Okay.
Well, you know what? And I should have consulted your husband in the writing of this book because I think that's an excellent answer. But most of us men, I don't think we're conditioned or we're taught to give that kind of response. I think our automatic response is to either tell the truth, which is going to be hurtful and it's going to cause some issues, or we're probably not going to tell the truth. Now, that's something I don't understand. I think she already knows. So why is she asking him?
Well, what she's really saying is, are you still attracted to me? Do I still turn you on, even though I might have put on 150 pounds? You know what I mean?
Right. And that could very well be. And that's why I say the book is not only written for women, but it's written for us men. Because you as a woman, see, you can tell me that. See, I wasn't even thinking that way.
Well, it's like men are from Mars, women are from Venus. We have our thought processes just don't work the same. And I think men generally, I'm just saying generally, will avoid conflict at any cost.
Yes, I agree with that. Typically, we will do that. And that's, again, I think that's part of the conditioning. But what I hope to do, I talk a lot about communication in the guide. And what I would like to see happen is that, men and women understand, we need to kind of try to create a safe environment to where we can, express our feelings, communicate what our true feelings are. And then I try to touch on, different areas that affect relationships like communication, sex. What I did was I polled a large number of women to give 3 questions that they would ask of men. And the men responded to those questions. That part was probably the most eye-opening. Why don't men put the same amount of work into their marriage as they do with the outside chick? That was one of the questions that really struck me. And as a man, my thought was, if my wife or my girlfriend made it as easy as the outside chick in a relationship, then the relationship with my spouse may be as good as my relationship with the outside chick. There are a lot of things that are very common in relationships that people don't want to talk about, like the outside chick, for example.
Is there an outside guy?
Absolutely. Normally, if there's an outside chick, there's usually the outside guy too, a lot of times. Men look at the outside chick from a sexual standpoint. He's not looking for an outside chick to have it's more of a physical thing.
Because he's not getting it at home, or he's just tired of what's at home?
Well, I think it's because more that he's not being sexually satisfied at home. It's about communicating and expressing your true feelings, and each of us being respectful of those thoughts and feelings.
Okay, I would say try the communication before the girlfriend, okay? Or, you know what? Live vicariously through a book entitled Lustful Fever by Terry Lofton. It's based on some real life experiences that he promises will provide a source of escape and entertainment.
It's a compilation of short stories, basically like one night stands, or, two adults live in the same high rise building. They used to have a thing going on, but it's no more. But they bump into each other. One word leads to another, leads to a touch, leads to a old feeling coming back, leads to relations.
And then what happens after the relations?
They make themselves decent again and just go their separate ways. And it goes into the next story. It's a good reason to read the book. Is if you may want to live vicariously through others. Well, there's one where you have a young guy that's on a Greyhound bus. He's in the pharmaceutical business. The way he's moving around, he takes up 3 seats all the way in the back by the restroom and lays all the way out. A young lady boards the bus. She gets his attention. He shares, one of the seats with her. They start conversing. She's going to one destination, he's going to another. So they're getting familiar, getting acquainted. Knees start touching. The light is dim. They're riding on the highway. It's night. The light from outside flashing by is creating like a certain ambiance, and they're looking in each other's eyes and start holding hands. And then it goes into the bathroom, sort of like, a Mile High thing, except it's land travel. Once, the deed is done, they come out of the bathroom. They both get off and one goes this way, one goes that way. They share parting sentiments, and then it goes into another story.
So there's lots of sex and no consequences. What's better than that?
Right. Like I say, I think it's relatable,
It is, because we all wish we could have sex without consequences, but that's never the case.
Exactly. But that's really like the appeal of it, because either you're living on the wild side, or you're wishing you did, and you're playing it safe by reading and looking into others.
Hey, it's one way to go, Terry. I'm not going to argue with that. And it's a heck of a lot safer than living out some of those fantasies. Okay, what a way to end this edition of the Page Publishing Book Club. Thanks to all of our authors who joined us tonight. We certainly had a little bit of everything. Check out the podcast at 710WOR.com, or hey, come back again next week. Same place, same time. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini.